How fast are the AI builders moving? What is the opportunity? What's holding them back? How do they come up with ideas? So I found one. Richardson Dackam is a solo developer, oftentimes writes whole products in a weekend, and I wanted to know a little bit about how he does it. What's the process? And where does that fit in the workflow opportunity we keep talking about with MSPs on this bonus episode of The Business of Tech? When chaos hits, will your system survive? Comet Backup's full image backups protect your entire system, files, apps, settings, and even the OS in one powerful automated backup. Comet is easy to deploy and bandwidth efficient. Full system backups for Windows, for Linux, for servers, for endpoints, all in one centralized platform. Whether you get hit with ransomware, hardware failure, or accidental deletion, Comet restores your system to physical, VM, or the cloud. Short on time? Restore individual files or folders to access critical data within moments. Try Comet Backup today. Reliable, secure, and made to scale. Visit cometbackup.com to protect what matters most. Get $100 free credit when you sign up with the promo code MSP Radio. Comet Backup. Backup fast. Restore easy. Well, Richardson, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Now, you're known for building AI-first SaaS products really fast. Like, that's what you've really focused on, and sometimes in a single weekend. Like, talk to me a little bit about what your process looks like and what you use to decide what ideas are worth scaling up.
Okay, so usually I find problems that are not too big to solve, but that can be built relatively quickly. So I like to call them done-for-you ideas. So the ideas that where you don't have to get a lot of involvement, getting yourself involved, or that can just be generated for you in a sense. And then my process involves a lot of research. So I build them really, really fast, but I spend a lot of time doing the research in order to plan the PRD, product requirement document of the project, and also to create the context engineering for my AI agents to build it effectively for me. And I'm able to do that because I have a really good background in web development. So I know exactly what are the different components to build things fast. And I try to pick an architecture that is going to be not too much work behind the scenes. So for example, I will use services such as Magic Link for authentication. I will use sometimes Supabase for like database or Upstash. And sometimes I will use my own Stripe integration for payment. And all of these different systems together make it a lot faster for me to build. And also, because I generate a PRD document, the AI agent knows exactly what it needs to build. And I'm able to feed that to an AI and get a prototype in sometime a couple of hours or sometime a day. And it gets started from there. And then I always build for an audience of one, which allow me to build a prototype pretty quickly.
Now, it sounds like the magic then actually is in the research. Tell me a little bit about like how that process works specifically. Like, are there particular sources? Are you doing use case design? Like, how are you putting together the research to guide that specification?
So I've now built my own agent that can do the research for me. But the way I went about it is I wanted to approach it in a way where I could teach AI how to innovate on its own, how to find areas where there's room for innovation. One way to do that is by looking at YC or some of the fund requests for startups. Sometimes they mention areas for opportunities. And so I've fed that to one of my AI agents that is aware of areas where there's opportunities for innovating. And the other thing that I do is when I'm doing my research, I'm applying a couple of different techniques so that my AI agent can think like a founder. One of the techniques that I employ is Alex Hormozi value formula. So I'm making sure that it can have that into its thinking and its context engineering. And also, I like to make sure that the AI is aware of different technologies that I want to use. So I will actually like explicitly mention them. Tailwind CSS, Next.js, some of the technology that I use. So my background is actually Ruby on Rails development. But I've switched to Next.js because I found it's much faster to build with JavaScript, TypeScript framework with AI on the web than with Ruby on Rails. So I've also shifted my go-to framework to be more effective and faster at building. So I use all of this information and feed it to the AI very explicitly. And then I do a lot of deep research with it where I'm thinking about the architecture. So I literally treat the AI like my CTO, and then we're just bouncing ideas. And when I'm doubting some of its suggestion, then I will really get into it and try to figure out how we can optimize different things. And I also think about willingness to pay. That's one thing that I really try to tackle, because it forces me to think about the ICP, to really think about the target customer in a way that I understand them at the psychological level. And then once I really understand, the price point, price limit, I can really structure the entire app pricing point, architecture of the tool. And when I'm about to feed it to AI, I essentially have it list all the different backend endpoint that it's going to have to communicate with, all the integrations. I have it list all the pages that it's going to have to develop. And I'm making sure that the AI keep track of that in a progress.mg file, which is a markdown file format.
Okay. Now, let's make this real for the people that are listening. Tell me about like one of your success stories on a product that you've launched and how you're measuring that success.
Sure. So I've launched an app called 8Nodes, which is an N8N workflow generator. N8N is a tool that allows you to create your own workflow automation system. And so right now, I have about 500 users using the tool. And the way I've reached that success is I've combined distribution by, I have my own YouTube channel where I post about AI technologies. So I have some of my audience there. I'm also a big contributor into different AI community. One of it is Greg Eisenberg. I think right now I'm like number one in his community. And I also have my own community. So I'm using those distribution channels to promote my tool. I'm also using Reddit. Sometimes people comment about my tool on Quora, which really bring traffic in. So I combine distribution strategy and also building in public. And this is how I bring people to use my tools.
And is it revenue generating? And how are you doing with that front?
So 8Node is not revenue generating right now. So sometimes it can take like 2 to 12 months for a startup like that to generate a revenue. So I've been trying to really improve the product. And right now, we haven't achieved product market fit yet. I say we, but I'm the only one building this. And it's because right now it is a bit too slow for the target market. So I've reached out to hundreds of N8N professional. And right now the biggest pain point that I'm trying to solve is speed. And if I'm able to fix the speed issue, then most users are going to upgrade. So the way I track everything, I have a dashboard that tracks daily active user, daily active generation, daily monthly user, daily weekly user. So I track all of that on the dashboard. And every single day I look at my metrics and I try to figure out which one I want to optimize. And I just try to optimize it by 1% a day.
We'll be right back after this message. This episode is brought to you by Control Map. Growing MSPs are using Control Map to build recurring revenue by expanding their GRC services. Starting now, Control Map is offering a free plan for MSPs looking to get started with providing compliance as a service. Create a free account and run an assessment. Track key items like policies, risks, and evidence in one place. It's a practical way to prove value to a client before deciding to expand your compliance offering. Try Control Map for free today. Visit scalepad.com/Dave to get started. That's scalepad.com/Dave. And we're back. Now, this approach, the rapid prototyping and the release cycles, moving that aggressive, that's counter to some of the ideas of some people that the idea that if you move too fast, you're shipping half-baked products. How do you balance innovation speed with long-term reliability and the ethical responsibility to clients?
So everything I build it with an SOC2 compliance mindset, because I'm thinking about this product growing and scaling at an enterprise level for some of it. And I also, because I've worked a lot of time with enterprise, I know what kind of rigor and requirement you need to have to build really good product. So I always keep that in mind when I'm building my product. When I'm implementing authentication, I'm making sure that, I'm handling the private information of user correctly, not exposing anything. I'm thinking about security, because I had a lot of experience building tools for organizations that rely on big security. So I always try to keep all of that in mind. And a lot of my project came from experiment. So for me, building startup is a way to stay at the edge of technology. So whenever I see a new technology, I try to build a product that's going to utilize that. But I don't just stop at the experiment. Sometimes I end up growing into traction and having users into the application. But so by making sure that the product is built with the rigor of enterprise and making sure that I'm building for a clear target audience, I know that if I keep pushing the distribution, keep improving the product through iteration, that at one point is going to grow and scale into something that a lot of users are going to use. Because I've done it before for other people. Now I'm doing it for my own portfolio of companies.
Gotcha. Do you have a particular approach on how you handle like challenges like scalability, uptime, and security when you're just a one-man team building complex AI systems?
Yes, so this is actually the very tricky part of making uptime. So I'm taking advantage of services that have that built in, like AWS, Vercel. So this way, this is already built in for me. One easy trick is to have to separate your landing page and your actual app into two separate applications, where the landing page is just a landing page, you know, and it just shows the user, promote your marketing to the user, allow them to see the landing page. So this is never going to go down. And then you have your application separately. So this way, if your app is down, you can still redirect them to your landing page. So that's one easy trick to go around that issue of having automating uptime. But oftentimes I just rely on, tools like Vercel. And if my app is down, it will just switch back to a previous version that was stable and working.
Gotcha. And are you deploying everything on, Google Cloud or Amazon? Like, talk to me a little bit about your uptime infrastructure to make sure the apps are available.
Yeah, so I'm using Vercel for some of my application, and then from other one I'm using Netlify. So it depends on where I'm deploying it. To make sure that it's available, usually I just make sure that to have system in place to track bugs, and I have like notification system. Like in the past, I will use their different like ping services that will notify me when it's down. I used to use Heroku for that, and then but now what I do is I just get notification whenever something is down directly from Vercel. It will just send me an email, and I'll get a notification to go and check what's going on. But oftentimes when something is done in Vercel, what will happen is they will automatically restart the application. So they kind of handle the uptime for me. So anything that I have to supervise, I try to find a way to make that either by using a service that already have that built in, or I find a way to build a system myself.
Gotcha. Now, we're all talking a lot about the idea of AI-first products. How do you differentiate an AI-first product from one that just uses AI as like a feature add-on?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So oftentimes you see people that build applications that don't necessarily need AI, right? But what I try to think about, I try to reverse engineer it. So I try to think of a problem that is worth solving. And I try to ask myself if there's any ways to alleviate the pain of that problem with AI. And if the answer is no, I'm not going to build a product, because I really want to build something where I can add AI that has a value add to it. And sometimes even being the main product. So if the pain point is not going to be alleviated with AI, then I won't use AI on the product at all.
Gotcha. Now, I want to get your take on this because, a lot of the experts, myself included, tend to think that particularly in IT services, and as we deploy solutions for customers, the actual best way is to slow down, build governance frameworks, and focus on compliance before deploying AI. I would think, based on your approach, you seem to advocate the opposite, like build and iterate is the approach. How do you think about governance frameworks and compliance, in terms of building products like this?
That's a good question. I always think about it ahead of time and try to think about way around it during my research. A good example of that, recently I built this tool that allowed me to analyze my blood work and give me actionable insight of what I can do with my blood work. Now, this is a space that is highly regulated. And initially I thought that maybe if I wasn't storing the user information, there could be a way around it where I could have the user store their own information and log into my software. But when I did my deep research on the legal aspect of it, I realized that no, actually I can't even manipulate the data even a little bit, or I will have to comply to the rules, right? So with something like this, then I've decided, for example, in this scenario, to make it open source and instead go with a license. This way, companies that can utilize that tool and can afford to go the extra length to follow the regulation can use my software and pay me a license in order to use that. So I always keep compliance in mind. I usually try to avoid compliance as much as I can, because I've worked in compliance before with my first big startup, ZoneGoat, and that was in the regulation space, and I had to collect tons of regulation because we built a regulation database, and so I don't find it a very attractive area to work with. Usually I avoid compliance, but when I see a solution that is too big of a solution to solve in a big problem, then it's hard not to solve it. For example, I built this tool called RareGap that help find gap in orphan disease. And that can help millions of lives if we can analyze all the information on orphan disease and find gap in terms of figuring out a cure. So in that case, I know I can't afford to go with the compliance and all the effort to work into that, but the solution is too important for me not to build it. So that's why I built that one.
Gotcha. I want to get a little bit of your take then as we wrap up our time talking here, is a little bit of your take on the speed of deployment. Like, how fast do you see agentic AI rolling out across businesses? Do you have a sense of timeline of how fast you think things are going to move?
I think most businesses are often in a scenario where they don't really know how they want to add that into their business. Like, they want automation, but they don't really know how they want that to happen internally. That's from what I've realized from people reaching out to me to get automation. They say they want to automate something, they want to use AI, but they don't know how to do it and what to do it. So I think because of that, I think it's going to be much slower than people think. I don't think it's going to be a really fast adoption because in order to really take the benefit of agentic AI, you really need to understand your own personal workflow and your own business workflow in your company. So if you don't really understand what are the bottlenecks, what you need to optimize, adoption isn't going to be as fast as people think. So I think it's not going to be as fast for that main reason that people don't even know what they want to build in the first place. And in order to get there, they need to think in system, they need to think in flow, right? And then, so I like to say this thing where if, for example, you cannot simplify your business in terms of simple workflow, then you're not ready to automate it yet.
Well, you've just highlighted the opportunity I keep thinking about. Richardson Dackam is the founder of RichDX and the creator of the AI Founders Club, a fast-growing community of AI builders and entrepreneurs. Based in Toronto, he's a developer and solo founder known for creating AI-first SaaS products, sometimes in a single weekend, and his open, build-in-public approach that demystifies the process of turning ideas into businesses. Previously, he led back-end engineering at Soho Works and built apps featured in the Next Web. Richard, if people are interested in reaching out and continuing the conversation, what's the best way for them to do that?
Best way is at my website, richdackam.com. And also you can find all my portfolio of companies at nshipyard.com.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me. That was fun.
Want more from the Business of Tech? Join Business of Tech Plus for ad-free episodes, early interviews, extended cuts, subscriber-only shows, and exclusive member perks and analysis. Sign up at businessof.tech/plus. And follow this show in your podcast app, and if you're on YouTube, hit subscribe and the bell so you never miss a story. Reviews and comments help spread the word too. Interested in advertising? Head to mspradio.com/engage. The Business of Tech is written and produced by me, Dave Sobel, under ethics guidelines posted at businessof.tech. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the next episode.